Okay, good morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Bounce Back Diaries, the podcast I've started not a while ago, and that's my second episode in English. And today, here with me in the studio, I have a good friend of mine, a mentor and advisor on board, and we'll talk about this later more, Mr. Steve Tineo. Am I saying it right?
Absolutely, yes.
So it's Professor Steve Tineo.
Oh, wow.
Okay?
That's too much honor.
Yeah. So please, if you take a moment and introduce yourself to everyone who's going to watch it later, if there will be anyone to watch it. But
Well, at least we can have that conversation, you and me. I
Yeah.
know you watch me and I watch you. So
Exactly.
that's
So,
enough. Thank you very much, Timur, for inviting me. Thank you all for being part of the podcast. So my name is Steve Alban Tineo. I'm from Switzerland. I normally say that I'm 27 years old, plus 20 years of experience. And I have a few, I have a little bit of a rich life experience with a lot of good, but a lot of bad as well.
Yes.
So which has completely shaped
yeah.
the profile of who I am. And I think that I must admit that maybe the difficult parts were the most precious to learn.
Yeah.
I do not wish to go through it again.
For sure.
But it's actually very important, to recover from your failures, to learn from them. So I think we'll talk about this. So I'm the CEO of a small boutique group called Assertive.
Yeah.
Assertive is a Swiss company. We have activities around the world. So we have 3 activities. One is financial. So it's more than networking. Because of Switzerland, we have a lot of banking activities, and so we advise a few families on how to structure their family office. And then so we do a lot of financial and commercial negotiation. So I became a professional negotiator a few years ago. And so I do a lot of complex negotiation, meaning just before there's a conflict or when the stakes are very important.
Yeah.
So I do in financial, commercial, humanitarian, and diplomatic.
Wow.
So I was lucky enough to work with a few big institutions. So I had mandates with the World Economic Forum, with ICRC, with the UN, and so it gave me a great credibility. Yeah. So I'm very hands-on. I'm street smart, like you. So I did close to 800 negotiation mandates.
Wow.
For a lot of companies, institutions, governments, individuals. So I trained myself. I trained other people. I became mental coach for Formula One drivers and for other sports people. So I trained with their medical doctors. First, I trained for me. And then I developed different bundles, especially around what we're going to call emotional intelligence. We'll define that later. And especially emotion expression. We realized that when we're emotional, something's happening inside of us, and sometimes we don't control it.
A lot.
In conflict resolution, which I do, which after complex negotiation, there's conflict resolution. We understand that a conflict is mainly emotional. If it's not emotional, it's a disagreement. And if it is a disagreement, a rational solution can be found. When it's emotional, and we see that in our day-to-day life with our companion, relationships,
partners,
wives, and
business,
exactly. So sometimes we become emotional, and then the rational brain is not functioning very well.
Directly stops.
Directly stops. So sometimes it can actually, when it goes to rage, the prefrontal cortex goes almost to zero. You say things you don't mean, you destroy the relationship,
you do
and your ego takes control of your life, and you believe you're right.
We'll talk about ego
absolutely.
today a lot.
And then at that very moment, you believe that you're justified, and breaking the other or being right is the key to your survival, which is completely wrong, but that's... So, and then the third activity, we have a small academy called W3 Academy, where I'm university professor. I give classes around the world. So we'll talk about it later, but I visited 105 countries with all my mandates and missions and vacations. So I give classes on different subjects. Normally it's leadership, negotiation, and conflict resolution. We're going to run with your company a program in Dubai, your first one in Dubai on the 28th, 29th, and 30th of October with Paul Fisher, the founder of the program on negotiation at Oxford.
Wow.
And it's going to be a
I'm saying wow like I don't know. Yes, I do know.
And it's going to be a very hands-on program. So there's both the academic and the expertise, the practical expertise. We really wanted with Paul to link both, because one doesn't go with the other. And I'll give very specific examples after. So the group is small but very effective. The number of positive resolution we have in conflict resolution is 86%.
Wow, that's big, huh?
Yes, it's big. And the satisfaction rate we have in all the classes, conferences, master classes, it's over 90%. So it means
there are still 10% who doesn't.
Oh, well, but that's of course. I would be very, very worried if there wouldn't be 10% of people. No, we shake people.
Okay.
The thing is, you know that because of your life experience, Timur. But you know, there's a sentence we always say: "It's you don't know what you don't know."
Yeah.
And some people, they're in a very destructive pattern and they don't see it.
Yeah.
So they're very emotional. Their reaction in interaction with the others are sometimes negative and they don't see it. They become their own. I was my worst enemy for years.
Wow.
Because I didn't see that things that happened in my childhood were affecting me so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I was compensating so much because I didn't love myself. I didn't like myself. So I had to compensate. The ego had to compensate. And then you become your worst enemy. You know, your ego wants to assert itself as the boss in the house.
Is that why assertive? The company name, Assertive?
There's actually two things which are really important in the question you ask. Is when we wrote the book with my wife Sonia, True the Self.
Here is the book.
The True the Self is a holistic approach to your own consciousness.
Okay.
It's a big word, but I'll explain it later if we have time. Do we have 4 hours?
It's like everything we'll explain
exactly,
later. But nothing will be explained.
And I think when I started with the word assertive, it was actually a way to remind me every day that we have to be assertive. And assertive is not winning, is saying what you believe is true, but in a kind way. Okay. And then understanding that the other one has the right to do exactly the same. And that disagreement will come. And we can disagree about everything, but we can still be respectful and we can still be friends. You and me, if we look at us, you know, just the country, education, social, religion,
family,
imagine how different we are. 100%. So we look kind of the same with our suits and everything, but on values, principles, on subjects like just religion, if you take it. If I would be born in a Jewish family, then I would normally be Jewish.
Yeah, you will observe everything around you.
Because of my surroundings, because of my belonging to this group. But I'm born in a Muslim family, I'm Muslim. And if you're born in a Christian family, you're Christian. So what is right, what is wrong? And then when you realize all of this, and you realize the place that all of this information have within the other one, then you can develop empathy. And then you're really trying to understand the other for the other and not for yourself.
This is what assertive means, being assertive.
A part of it. To assert yourself, it's really to take your position, but without the ego taking a position. You know, I don't need to prove you that I know better than you. I know some things. Exactly. I know some things. You know some things. And so I love this sentence, which we always say in the conference, each one teach one, and it's not Chinese.
Each one teach one. And
it's not Chinese.
Okay.
It's really each one teach one.
It sounds like a name.
It's very, the first chapter that I do in this masterclass is always humility. So we treat people with 5 or 6 exercises to show them the limitations of their own mind and of the cognitive charge. And it's quite amusing because a few people, they take it bad. So that's part of the people rating me. They're like, well, but I failed 3 times, so I hate this guy. And but it just to realize the interpretation of who you are. So I give you one example. I always ask the question to people: what color is a Coca-Cola can?
Is what?
Coke, a Coca-Cola.
A Coca-Cola.
Coke
okay, Coca-Cola
and
can.
People say red.
Yes.
So I just play a photo of a can.
Okay.
And everybody sees it red. but there's no red in the photo.
And there is
there's the shadows and all of the it's done with green shadows, white, and then everybody sees it red. But it's interpretation of the mind.
Because you know that it should be red.
It is. So you interpret it like this with the shades. It makes you look like if it's red, but it's not. And so there's plenty of examples like this when we see that it's our own mind is limiting us to very limiting beliefs. What you know about life is just a fraction. What I know is a fraction. If our fraction is different, then we're normally going to disagree.
Of course.
And if we disagree, but not knowing that we don't know much, which a lot of people think they know a lot, when science...
They come with this because, there are certain subjects I would think that I know better.
Yes.
There are certain... And if we have conversation on the subject, I think I know better, we might have a disagreement.
One of the most humbling moments in my life is when I started working in Formula One. I was lucky enough to be invited by a Formula One driver to drive a Formula One on a track.
Wow.
So we rented old Formula Ones, not the recent ones. And I was kind of a good, the local car champion. So I had a few trophies.
The best Uber driver.
Exactly. So I had a few of these things, and I was always bragging and had my first nice Porsche. So I was young, and So we went to this track, and it's a small track. So they tell us that if you go under 1 minute, you're very good. So we start
under 1 minute.
We start with small Formula 3, and we get. It was the first time I drove a single seater. So you get warm up, and then you go into the Formula 1. And I was so happy because first lap you go slow, and then you go, and then I went 57 seconds, 54 seconds.
Wow!
And I was I came out like almost going and taking the trophy.
Where's my trophy?
Where's my champagne? Where are the ladies screaming my name?
54 seconds. Okay.
54 seconds.
One lap.
Okay. That was my best lap.
Yeah.
And the other ones, the friends that came with me, they were 101, 103.
Okay, so you were...
I did better.
Yeah.
I was
the best out of those
Uber
three.
Driver.
The best Uber driver.
So that Formula One driver left from the stand, from the pit stop.
Yeah.
First lap, 27 seconds. Second lap, 23 seconds.
Wow.
That's when you realize that you don't know how to pilot a car. You know how to drive it.
Yes.
But it's a different world. So this humility part is enormous. I've seen people that are so effective and so intelligent on subjects that you can't even understand what they say. It's just you need to change the paradigm of how you see things.
Because they just float.
Exactly. But it doesn't mean they're good at everything.
Yeah.
And some of the things, they're completely outside of any reality.
Yeah.
So the thing is just to try to be friend with yourself and understand that's what we say in the book. It's how to actually start just to learn about yourself, to know yourself, your own limitations, be humble about what you know and what you don't know, and then but you can still be confident.
Yeah.
That when I go into any meeting or in this complex negotiation world, I meet with very smart people, diplomats. I even work with 5 presidents of countries. Imagine, you're in front of them. And the thing is, you just realize that first, everybody has a story.
Yeah.
Everybody has pains. Everybody's hiding it pretty well. Don't expect that a president is not upset because of a newspaper article or a competitor spitting on them on TV. And then that we all have our own emotional profile. So these people can be very affected by things, and it will change the way they handle things. Mm-hmm. So bringing you to that understanding, their understanding, you sit down with people everywhere in the world, and you just realize that we're all humans after all. So people say, business is business. There's no emotion in business. That's completely wrong.
Yeah.
Harvard came back in, I think, the 1990s with we have to separate problems from people.
Okay.
Yes and no. Because, if I have a problem with you, the person I'm talking to has the problem behind.
Yeah.
So first I need to interact with you.
Yeah.
I need to create the link. I need to give you a little bit of empathy. I need to give you comprehension. I need to give you the space.
It's about person,
Absolutely. So it just then, and we'll talk about it later.
Next time.
It's very difficult when you do conflict resolution, which is very, very thin, because a lot of people, when they're in that state, that emotional state, that's what we're going to talk about, failure and rebound.
Later.
No, not late. Talk about it. It's important to understand that in that state, they will not be open for communication. Yeah. When you're angry and I start telling you, stop, don't be angry, don't be angry, don't be angry, it's not working.
I just make
or if
angry.
I tell you, listen to me, you cannot.
But that's what normally happens in couples, in
Absolutely.
Business partners. Yeah. Everyone is trying to...
So emotions, emotion, energetic motion, you feel it. Yeah. You know, it's something energetical. Someone angry, don't even try to make him understand anything. Yeah. When you're high in emotion, you low in rationality.
But do you try to calm the person down?
Make him express his anger. So give him validation. Yeah. I do that when there's fights every time there's a fight in the street, I go and my wife is like, oh, he's doing it again. And so, I go to them and I make them express their anger.
Fight.
No, not against each other, for themselves. And sometimes, I give them a tissue, I say, you're bleeding. I take them out. When we're in a fight, we're completely in it.
Of course, we are all.
And then someone needs to take you out of it. But if someone is screaming at someone in an airport, I go next to them. And I say, what's the problem? Yeah, I'm angry too. And they go, yeah, because of this and that and that. And after 30 seconds of screaming that you're angry, what is happening? You diffuse.
I just imagine how you do it.
Yes, and the guy is alone in the middle of the airport. His anger went down. He feels a little bit stupid because everybody is looking at him. And then you say, shall I bring you and we talk to the lady? Oh, yeah, okay, let's go. And you bring them a very rational solution, that it's emotional, rational, and then it has to be verifiable. People needs to validate what they do. Don't give them bullshit. Yeah. It has to be, I love values and principles, and it has to be strong in what you give. Give them a real option.
But strong. I believe that it wasn't like this for you always. Like now you're 47, as you said. 27 with 20 years experience.
Okay, thank you.
Now you have a book. You are a professor. You have done 800 different missions and mandates, worked with 5 different presidents. Now you jump into people anger management when they are fighting on the sea. So all of that now, all right? So you are also an entrepreneur and business owner, an investor, and you went, and because the whole podcast, Bounce Back Diaries, started because of my personal failures. Yes. I call them failures. Some people say don't call it failures, it's a lessons. It's failures. I mean, you take it as a lesson.
Okay. A dog shit can be something sweet, but it's still, when you step on it, it's still a dog shit.
Yeah, so it's a failure, and I take it as a failure. And yes, if you take lesson out of them, and we, as you said, we are all human beings. We go through emotions, and it's just a matter of how long you stay in that stage. So all that, now when we are more enlightened and assertive and we understand what we are saying, and we even can help others to go through that. So my podcast is more for people who either currently in that stage when they think that everything is just falling apart. And I have a lot of friends. I actually started this to open them up.
So
absolutely. I'm sending them video to say, look, you're not alone. I know maybe you are going through a lot. You don't want to share. You don't want to say that you're going through a lot because your position obliges you to stay strong. Maybe you have people relying on you.
Ego doesn't want them to appear weak.
Yeah. So all that, what was before? I mean, but your personal failures. I mean, you wasn't born like this, enlightened and assertive, and.
Well, I don't know if I'm enlightened. I try to be assertive, and I try to be a good human being.
Okay.
Which is already difficult to do. Let's say that. The introduction in the book. It's I traveled the world 10 times for the right reason, but 10 times for the wrong reasons. There's a wonderful Zen saying that say, the master has failed more time than the disciple has even tried.
Oh.
I failed so many times, and I crashed, and I tried to commit suicide, and I was depressed, and I thought I would never make it, and I felt ridiculous.
I just want them to see you.
But so many times. The thing is, the only thing that has changed inside of me is the resistance to what is. I accept things as they are, as my own limitation. The only person who wanted to be right was my ego. Who wanted to be a superhero was my ego. Who wanted to be world champion, but not world champion in one thing, world champion in everything, was my ego. That believed that I would be more happy with any of the external factors.
The achievements.
Oh, when I'll have that car, when I'll have that house, when I'll have 1 million, when I'll have 2 million, when I'll have... just the
endless.
Endless. A good friend of mine is one of the great Formula One driver. And he's constantly unhappy. So he says, oh, but I'll be happy when I win my first race. And then when I'll win my first thing. And then when I'll have that. And every time he's pushing. And at the end of the day, it's been a few years and he's still not really happy.
Yeah.
And when you look at everything that is happening in our life, the judgment of what is good or bad is creating that separation with the unity of everything. I mean, if you and me, with the relationship and the openness we have, if we would today meet after a failure, we would hug, we would go for a burger, laugh, and just start again.
Yeah.
But it was not like that.
Yeah.
Because before, your ego thought that if you would show weakness, if you would cry, if you would fail, that you were actually a failure.
Yeah.
You identify...
Nobody wants to deal with failure.
No. You identify with the event itself.
With what happened.
Especially now, when you look at, you look first Instagram. Yeah. It's all external validation.
Yeah. My Instagram was blocked, or yes. I lost everything.
No, but look at the people having 7, 8, 10 millions. Yeah. They're not the clever ones. Yeah. Not in terms of a Nobel Prize would have 363,000 followers. When someone showing nice parts of their body in swimming suits and not saying something clever about politics or about whatever humanity will have 7 million.
Like the world is Hawk Tour girl.
Yeah, exactly.
She's traveling the world.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And but the thing is, that's pretty much the reason why we wrote the book, is try to show people that there's something inside of them, that every time you try to compensate with something outside, there's something inside of yourself that is not completely fixed, not aligned, or maybe dysfunctional, or maybe sick, or maybe pathological. And psychology or psychiatry, I studied a little bit both, not to be therapists, just to understand how to talk with these people. They would actually, the number of people that would have psychopathologies would be very high. And, just the fact that a huge part of the population has depression. In a depression, your brain is not working functionally. You cannot be rational when you're in a depression because it's an emotional compensation. Then the number of people who have cognitive biases. I mean, you look on social media now with the algorithm. If you trust or you believe in something, download it 5 times. And then the algorithm is, see, I told you. But look, I only have this. But yet it's the algorithm. So you believe, or you tend, which there's one bias, which is called the confirmation bias. Your brain will just look at something which is going to give you confirmation of what you believe is right. If you believe the earth is flat, most probably you went to flat earth forums, and then you will have more of this.
So you will always get...
And you're surrounded by them. So you're like, but look, they're everywhere.
The universe is telling me.
The universe send me that amazing photo of a flat earth. And you're like, no, it's not. It's the algorithm. So it's very, very complex.
But is that, I mean, as a question to what you're saying, but is that normal to want good things, a good car? Do you want a good car?
But the problem is always why.
So
do you want a good car because of the pleasure of driving it? Or maybe because you're proud of having it, or to show? If without this good car, you feel that your value is less, then there is something.
This is the problem. So you always basically, you ask yourself, the minute you want something, a nice watch, a nice car, a bigger house, you ask yourself, why you want it. Then you ask again and again until you find the real reason.
You have the right to be abundant.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at I haven't read all the philosophies, but if you look at the 6,000 years of written, they say that you have to work on yourself, that it's more important than anything else. You don't have to save the world. You have to save yourself. Okay. And that abundance on everything, not abundance only on money. Yeah. I mean, you surrounded by rich people. Yeah. How many times do you really find them content, happy, and aligned, or
true? Never.
Almost never.
9 out of 10 people I meet,
it's amazing.
They are not happy with what they have, and they're always depressed.
So I wrote that little sentence in one of the conference on peace that I give, which doesn't come from me, but I don't find who wrote it. So it's not that we cannot feed the poor. It's that we cannot satisfy the rich anymore. Most of the people that I have around, that I have either inherited or have, but literally more than 5, 10, 20, 100, sometimes 500 million. Yeah. They have problems that we would even imagine. And they vibrate unhappiness. They're not happy with, I mean, I have 3 friends that bought private jets.
Okay.
It's amazing because they're all excited and everything. Yeah. You know what they talk 80% of the time when you see them and you sit down with them?
About private jets.
The price of the private jet. It's this.
The petrol increase,
exactly.
the crew.
You fly your own plane, you know. I fly economy, 35D. Not like this. Yeah. That's actually the very sad thing that I see as, that's the reason why our programs, the conference that we're organizing.
But when you say we wrote the book, who wrote the book?
Okay, so.
Best part of you.
Yes. So I've taken pretty much 5,000 pages of notes during all of this 20 years. Yeah. I have zero talent to write because I have a little bit of deficit of attention. So for me, writing for hours is very difficult.
Oh, it's like me.
Okay.
Is it ADHD?
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah?
For me, it is.
So now I'm normally talking about ADHD because...
For me, it's very difficult to read 20 pages and stay concentrated. Okay. I need to take pen, write notes, and then I can be concentrated. Okay. So when I listen to a podcast, I need to do something. Yeah. So otherwise, I don't listen. So I need to draw. I need to... Exactly. So I didn't meet. There was this lady in Switzerland called Sonia Grimm. And she was one of the famous singer, maybe the most famous singer in our French-speaking part of Switzerland. Yeah. She was doing big shows for families, mainly musicals. She had dancing school, music school. She would take all the students on stage. So it was really wonderful. Everybody loved her. Yeah. But nobody knew or nobody realized that she was in a very toxic relationship for over 10 years. Wow. And so she was at the origin of the Me Too movement in Switzerland. She was the first one to talk. She wrote a book, like a journal of everything she went down in the relationship. And she really became the voice of the voiceless, of all of these people in toxic relationship, men, women, huh? Yeah, it's the same. Abusing, and it can be in your family, it can be at work, it can be with a parent, it can be with anything.
Abusing toxic relationship.
And it's a huge number. I mean, you know, they say that it's between 2/5 to 3/5 of the people being in a dysfunctional relationship. Wow. So close to 50%, we always have someone around and then we don't know how to handle it. So I read an article in the press that she was starting an association to promote programs, prevention programs against harassment and domestic violence. Mm-hmm. And her association, she called it Parle-moi. Parle-moi in French, it's talk to me.
Talk to me.
But you can separate the parle. Parle-moi means true myself. Okay. And that's true the self.
Talk to me, if you separate them, it's true myself.
True myself, or true the self. Yeah. And the self is very important. Yeah. So that's been, I think, the savior of all my failures, was actually to stop looking outside. And it was, but it was violent for me. I needed to hurt myself very badly to the brink of dying because I committed suicide. The only reason why it didn't work was maybe because of chance.
It's another failure.
No, but exactly. I even failed that. Can you
failed
imagine?
to die.
I failed to
So
die.
I found the best person to my podcast.
Absolutely.
About
I
failures.
even failed to stop the game.
It's like
Can you imagine?
1001 failure. Okay.
And,
Sorry.
And so I really looked at everything outside, and I said that there's no options. I've changed the cars, I've changed the job, I've changed the girlfriend.
It didn't work.
No, it didn't work. And then that emptiness, which a lot of the rich people, they talk about this emptiness. You know, I talked with a lady a few days ago, and she's really wealthy, to a few billions. And so that was the first meeting I had with her. She literally looked at me and she said, I have everything outside, but I have nothing inside.
Wow.
And that's exactly how Sonia was feeling. She didn't feel that she was respected, loved, worth it. She believed that she was just a character, and she didn't understand why she was here. So her vibration was actually she wanted to disappear, which it's a nice way to say that you want to die. Normally when you have kids, when you have kids, you stay because of them, but still you want to disappear. I didn't have kids, so for me it was kind of easier to try to want to stop the machine. And so I sat down with her.
So after the article,
I sent her a LinkedIn message. You know, I know complex profiles and I know a little bit of all of this violence. Can I help your association? She answered. She invited me for lunch. I sat down with her, and then she was telling me she wanted to write a book. She wanted to do this and that and that. But I realized that by her vibration, you know, we feel a little bit the aura of the people, that she didn't reconstruct herself. So from one toxic relationship, she jumped into another one. It was different, but
less abusive.
Different, but still very abusive. And she didn't realize that actually, you know, the what I'm going to say is really violent. But if now I insult you or I smack you, if you stay and you let me do a second time, you co-creator of the following. The first time you need to go. My mother, sadly, she met this really good-looking Italian guy with a Fiat 500. Ciao. And so 9 months after, she married him, and the first night of the honeymoon, he beat her so badly that she broke the sink in the hotel room.
Wow.
And that was my father. She stayed 14 years because she was trapped. And she said it before she passed away. She said that she was victim of our father only once.
That first night.
The rest of the time, she was co-creator. I mean, she knew that one day it would turn against the kids, but she didn't have the understanding. She didn't have YouTube and learn. Psychology was not that developed. You couldn't go and see a psychologist at the time in the 60s. And, you know, my grandmother was not really supportive or helping her with everything. It was judgment. I told you not to marry him. And now you handle your own problems and only judgment. So my poor mother, she was completely trapped in a life that was not ours. And my father had a terrible father as well. So he had terrible violence in his childhood, so he reproduced. I'm not giving any excuses. I'm just explaining.
Explaining why that happened,
And so I think our generation now, and that's what then I've done with Sonia, I looked at her and I said, before we do anything, we work on you. So she came into the program, which is called KYC, Know Yourself First.
KYC.
No, KYF. KYC is the banking. Ah, damn.
KYF.
I failed.
You failed.
Failed again. KYF, Know Yourself First, which is going to be part of the conference that we have on the 30th, is really to understand your own self. And so I made her do the step from outside to inside, and she changed her life in 6 or 9 months, which is what we have.
6 and 9 months.
Oh, completely. Now she doesn't even have a negative day anymore.
So, but is it possible? What is the time period? Oh, it depends on the person.
It depends on the person. Now, the numbers are a little, and then I would advise everybody to talk to psychologists and psychiatrists. You know, there's no miracle, and it's hard work on yourself.
Okay.
Or therapy, whatever. You know,
so
find
you need to go
really
to sleep to prefer.
You need to do something for someone to show you what you don't see.
Okay.
And especially, I'm going to quote Buddha, truth is behind the door of your fear. Most of the time, abuse comes from the people we love the most.
Yeah.
Parents, they always say, oh, I want to try to be good parents. Don't be good parents. Be loving parents.
Yeah.
You're going to fail. You're going to push him to do guitar. He wants to do piano. But he's not going to tell you, so he's going to be happy. And then he wants football and he wants tennis. And then anyway, you have a business trip on the day that is the most important for him. And you're going to miss it. And he's going to hate you. And, whatever you do, I mean, you're going to fail. So be loving. Love cannot fail. And so the numbers are a little bit difficult. So they say, the psychological community, say that out of 100% of the population, we're all having something dysfunctional. It can be emotional, it can be, or you've really worked on yourself, or you're enlightened. Yeah. Sat down under a tree and suddenly something happens, which never worked for me. With my hyperactivity,
with your ADHD.
And I'm like, where do we go now?
Meditation.
What do we do? Exactly. So they say that normally 80% of the people are not really favorable or capable of doing a very deep inner journey.
On themselves. Yeah.
Exactly, to really see what's wrong. And that within this 20%, 5% are really capable, like you're one of them. You're really capable of sitting down and say, wow, this is what I didn't see. I fucked up. I failed. I this. But not to blame yourself. When you told me yesterday, we had a wonderful conversation in your office. When you say, I didn't see all of this. My ego was doing that. I mean, you were not sad about it. You were not in pain about it. You say like, well, I hope I'm not going to do it again. Thank you very much. I've learned my lesson. But that's what people don't realize. It's by facing yourself. It's actually almost a step to freedom and removing the weight of hiding it. And it's more painful to doubt. It's more painful to say, no, I don't want to see. No, I don't want to change. No. When you say, hey, I failed. I did this and it didn't work. And, I literally failed miserably a few times in my life. And when I look at it, it was ridiculous. It's like, it's not me. The guy looks like me, but it's not. I have a twin. His name is Jeremy.
Cuckoo,
Try to hide it under the carpet. There's a sentence I say in the conference. I always make people laugh. I normally never make the same mistake twice. I do it 10 or 11 times just to be sure.
That's the exact argument I had with my when she says, you're doing the same. I said, why do you always say that? I never do the same. I do thousands of mistakes. They're never the same. They just look a little bit different.
Change a little bit just to be sure.
Like if I say I don't trust this guy, I don't trust this guy, but I will trust another guy and for the same thing.
But that's important. The thing is, you have to understand that to be the entrepreneur you are, well, your brain needs to function its own way. And because nobody is telling us how we function, the brain, emotionally, socially, but we need to learn.
Somehow.
And by testing, by trying, that's actually a way of learning. And sadly, if you were in an environment which was somehow toxic in your family, the probability that by loyalty to them, you're going to attract where you vibrate. So you recreate. A lot of women, they stay in this bad boy relationship. And then when you tell them, but what's the rules that you have in this? Well, he's never there. I don't have any place. He just comes and give me a kiss and goes. And I say, well, how was the relationship with your father? And I say, my father was never there. He was always traveling. He would not be there. He would come give me a kiss and buy me a bag, and that's it. So actually, you've recreated.
Attracted the same.
Not at all the same externally. It looks different because of it. But the feeling of not being valued, not being followed,
cared,
or not
loved,
being listened, or not being cared. And so it's actually the same. And when we understand that we are the co-creator, and I'm being very careful with my words, because I was not the creator of my father's violence. But I'm the creator of how I will deal with it after. Do I want to victimize myself? And a lot of people calling Sonia's association that are in toxic relationship, they are good in this victim state. Because it gives a lot of comfort. Victimization and guilt, they're both of the lowest energy you can have. Gratitude is the highest. Just say thank you. Look around. Look at that very moment.
Yeah.
Look at you. Look at me. We here. We laugh in the car. It's gratitude about everything. Just say thank you. Yeah. That's enough. You don't need to love. You don't need big words.
So you start with saying thank you.
By looking. Look at that. I mean, with thank you. I made a calculation, which I'm going to do to your team later. So we are in healthy, wealthy, and safe environment, okay? Which is you and me, which is much more than at least 5-6 billion people on the planet. Now add animals. Yeah. Just for animal consumption is 60 million animals will be killed this year. So take your lifetime over 100 years. Yeah. And I didn't count the fish, I didn't count the insects, I didn't count anything. To be reincarnated in the same kind of profile that you have now, being healthy, wealthy, and I'm not talking super rich, just being great. The chance is 0.00000000000000001%.
Wow.
That's how much chance you have to be in the same...
Just the same condition.
Wow. And so when I look at my condition, I'm like, oh God, I'm not Elon Musk. I'm not Barack Obama. Yeah. I'm not a Formula One driver with 300 million. Yeah. Shit, I'm not my private jet. Yeah. And you look at all of what you don't have. And then you look at all what you have. I mean, you come from a humble background. Yeah. You had to work your way out. Me too, same. Grew up with my mother, and she was working in a school, but nothing fancy, nothing at all. So all of this was
hard work.
Hard work. Yeah. But like the majority of us, we look at the 5 Instagrams that made it. Yeah. We look at the 5 Formula One drivers that make it. But for one Formula One drivers, there are 100,000. For one Timor, there's maybe 10 million unsuccessful entrepreneurs. Yeah. But they're good people. Yeah. They're smart. They're just not the same environment, didn't have the chance to meet the right person at the right time to write everything. It's just, that's a call for humility, just to look around and bring a little bit of philosophy. Yeah. Just to sometimes stop and just realize that, wow, it's okay now. Yeah. It's okay to fail. Yeah. It's okay to not be great. It's okay not to look good. It's okay to be, and then try to learn how to love yourself the way you are. And the thing is, there are no other ways. Sonia is a very beautiful woman. She didn't find herself beautiful. Yeah, she knew she was a doll because she could see and she had great body.
She
and
has something to compare.
But she didn't find herself beautiful. So when people would say, oh my honey, you're so sweet, she was just like, I'm not even really interested. Yeah. Someone would even give her a very kind compliment. She would not take it. And so I always thought that I was stupid because my brother was jealous and he made me grow up in our environment like I was handicapped. And so I grew up thinking that I was handicapped.
No
Oh,
way.
yes.
Wow.
But very badly handicapped. And because of ADHD, because of the the high potential profile that I have, my brain is functioning a little bit differently. I was not like the other kids. So jealous brother, 2 years older than me, not giving me any chance to do stuff. I would do Lego and everything. He would come destroy and do for me. So I grew up saying I'm completely dysfunctional. I grew up until the age of 27 believing that I was a fraud.
Until age of 27?
Yes, believing that I was a fraud when I started meeting doctors.
No
And then
way.
they could put names and things on things. I never went to see a doctor before 27. Or a doctor, meaning a psychologist. So you look around, everybody fits the system. I didn't fit the system. I could be very good at something, and then at school, because of the ADHD, I would be in the back of the class, and I would fail all the time. and so everybody was like, "But Kiki, go play football." And my brother was super rational, super academic. He would sit in front of the class, and he would get the best grades. So he jumped classes and
What's
everything.
the difference? You said 2 years.
2 years and 2 months. Yeah. So the thing is, I grew up in that stupid environment where I never cried. I loved every bugs, everything. My best friend was a dog, which I tattooed here. Yeah. And so my world was completely different than his. And the problem is, in that rational thing, well, if you're good at school, you're a good boy. If you're not good at school, you're a bad boy.
Yeah.
So the thing is,
That's how it is.
I was always the bad boy.
Yeah.
But everybody liked me. I was always funny. I was always kind. I was always helping. I was always delivering for the pharmacy, for the old ladies. I was always the captain in my football team, at taking care of the others. But nobody never see my football games. So they didn't even, that was not important. So I grew up in an environment which was, I didn't have my own identity. But it was not even really bad. I mean, my father was violent, but when he left, my mom was alone. It was not that toxic at the beginning. But still, when it's broken, it's broken.
Yeah.
You know, when you go on your own, you go on your own. And then you, like Sonia, you believe that you're not worth it. And so we started that work. I was very rough on her.
What was it a part of therapy?
A part of therapy. She had therapists. For me, what I try to be with these people, like when I coach a sports people or even someone high up, I'm just a mirror of themselves. So I make them, I've tried to teach myself. That's the reason why I call it holistic. I don't know everything about all the therapy. I know the basic enough to give one phone call away. My mother did something really great. One day I was 10 years old. I was looking Professor Jacquard, which is a very famous French scientist, and he was explaining amazing things. And I looked at my mom and I said, Mom, I just realized that I'm never going to know much. You know, there's this guy, that guy. And she told me, Steve, you have a revelation. You always need to be one phone call away to have your next question. And so I've really built my life with circles. And you know, they say that you're 7 circles away of knowing everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm
7 handshakes, we say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm personally connected to the King of England.
7.
Not be invited for his birthday, but maybe King Charles, if you hear me.
if you're gonna watch my podcast.
Exactly. Hello, Mr. Biden. I'm your great. So the thing is, one of the program I give is the power of questioning.
Okay.
Having the answer when you think of it is not important.
Having the right question is important.
That is the most of everything. Your staff will receive today a list of 250 of the most accurate questions. You will receive it as well. You can.
I'm getting goosebumps. You know why? Because it is so important. I never had this thought, which you said, that it's not about the answer, it's about the right question. Because you can ask until you get the actual answer. Because that's why when you start saying about it's okay to want a good car, but once you start asking why you want a good car, I want to drive comfortably. Why you want to drive comfortably? Or then you realize that the only thing you wanted a good car because you want your neighbor to show exactly. So only if you have right
and
questions.
There's nothing wrong of having a good car. Just having for the right reason.
Yes.
If it's to have the private jet and complain all the time about the price of the fuel and the everything.
To get into that circle to complain with others.
Then, you see with some of maybe your concierge clients, you know, the neighbor or the friend, the school friend that got the new G5 and you have the G4. And then you make a huge problem because you cannot have a lower plane and they do that with boats. And it's amusing, but it's not. Because if you look at them, they have the power on the world. Politicians are doing the same. They have the power on the world and they're not using that power to create value for the others. They're creating to get more of compensation of their frustration. And that's very important. So I put all these mirrors around Sonia and I guided her. And so she did an amazing job because she was ready. You know, this Zen sentence saying, when the student is ready, the master appear. But the master is not the person. When I this master classes, these conferences, I inspire people and I really like it. But the message is more important than a messenger. That's what sometimes I'm a little bit afraid with the American way of promoting the coach.
The celebrity,
exactly.
So they build the brand.
You forget, like, Tony Robbins, and you forget that I have to do the work that Tony Robbins is telling me. I have to take responsibility. And it's not him. He's giving you hints. And these guys are great.
Push.
The world needs this. But in Europe, we don't have the superstars. Like
so there are it's not developed.
Not like this. A coach has to be, someone going into companies, sometimes talking publicly.
Yeah.
But in the United States, they take one guy as the leader of everything, and they make it a huge celebrity.
Yeah,
it's not really in this world. Like Chris Voss, the negotiator from the FBI, which went into masterclass and everything, and his content is great.
Yeah,
it's just he auto-proclaimed himself the best negotiator in the world. And it's just only Americans can do that. Most of the people in Europe would say, no, but no, I know this, I know that, all of that. But that's their branding.
Yeah.
They like that. So now, how can you be, if you're the best negotiator in the world, then you cannot be the best negotiator in the world. I go to Uzbekistan today with people that don't speak English, but I don't know
how you're going to negotiate.
This guy.
And Uzbekistan is also a world, no? It's
exactly.
part of the world.
And so 3 days after, I will come to the podcast and I say, I failed again. I failed with Uzbek again. No, and it's just this thing of, differentiating marketing, truth. For me, what's important, that's the reason why all our program, it's called now W3, Consciousness of Humanity.
Consciousness of your humanity.
The thing is, everybody in negotiation talks about win-win.
I wanted to ask, what is
so
W3?
You win, I win.
Yes.
The rest of the world is dying. Is that fair?
Not fair.
Honestly, we're on the brink of extinction.
Yeah.
You can be rich and kind and generous.
Yeah.
You don't need to take the last $5 that are on the ground next to the little peasant. You don't have to take them for you. It's just we need to change the mindset of the people. They become really responsible. They take ownership of everything there is. And for example, ESG number 17 is peace. I think it's the 17. It's peace. The UN sustainable goals.
Yeah, goals.
Exactly.
Number 8 is partnership.
Yes. And I think 17 is peace. I might be wrong. Maybe it's 7.
But you can guys go and Google.
But nobody's talking about peace.
Yeah.
I go to Ukraine, not next week, the week after. I'm in Ukraine. I talk to some of the people in conflict zones. And so people don't want peace. They want to win the war. And it's a very different mindset. I was at the European Union with Sonia, and we were invited to do a speech in this with one of the ministers, a lady. And so we did our speech. She came at the end. Oh, it's the most inspiring speech and everything. But, Mr. Tineo, let me correct you.
Okay.
The only way to win or to stop the war between Ukraine and Russia, it's to give more money and more weapons to Zelensky.
Which means
and I told her very kindly, I say, you're talking about war. The day you want to talk about peace, you have my number. And I left.
Wow.
Because, a lot of people, they say, oh, Putin wants to conquer the West and Putin wants this. And then people say, no, but they don't think this. Say, we don't mind about what you think in Belgium. If Putin thinks this, it's going to make a war. If NATO is a tricky subject for him, then address NATO. Don't say, no, but having missiles by the border is not an existential threat. It is for them. Then take it in consideration. So that's what I said at the beginning. Learn about yourself, understand your own limits. Now, understand the other. What is reality? There's something in peacemaking called the Monroe Doctrine. You don't install nuclear weapons next to a nuclear power. It came out in the 70s. That's the Cuba missile crisis and everything. So the Monroe Doctrine is known amongst all of it. What, not the European diplomats? And it's like the United States, they want this, and they've been destabilizing a country for few presidents and a few years. You know that better because it's your region. And then and people say, but it's a sovereign state. They have the right to decide for themselves. Well, the sovereign state is not the people didn't decide to go into NATO. And so to finish with Sonia. So one day she told me, oh, Steve, we have to write a book and everything. And I say, okay, let's do it. And she came out with 100 pages. She had put all the subjects that I've thought her organized. So then we sat down it was a long time. We sat down for 3 times. And we wrote every chapter together.
Wow.
Trying to have short chapters, empathetic writing, so something that is emotional, not psychological stuff. It was validated by a psychologist and a psychiatrist. And so for us, it's really what we hope that we are. We want to be a little light on a subject that you don't know that might talk to you. So it's just, you don't know about therapy.
Yeah.
You don't like psychiatry.
Yeah.
Because in your family they say if you
Yeah,
go to see a
so you are
psychiatrist,
cuckoo.
but there's plenty of others.
Yeah.
So why don't I show you masotherapy? You just go and have a good therapeutic massage.
Yeah.
Then sometimes the body releases energy, and then sometimes you cry. And
I would love to. Yeah.
it just starts like this. Fine. If you tell me, if I give you 3 words and I say yoga, skydiving, and diving, and you tell me skydiving, let's do it.
Yeah.
It means that you're ready to do something with it.
Yeah.
But for that, you need the humility mindset of saying, I don't know much. I have my own limitations. Let me learn. Let me become. That's what I call in the book a student of life. Become a student of life. It's the game of life. I mean, I don't want to be too pessimistic, but you and me are dying.
Oh, 100%.
You know, from yesterday, it's one day less.
Yeah.
It might be tomorrow. It might be in 50 years. We have no idea. But the thing is, time is really counting. So if you don't take all of this a little bit as a game, for what? The rat race to get more money at the end, and then you die, and then you bury yourself with a Rolls Royce. So maybe when you go there, you have your...
And everyone knows that, and that you don't bring anything with you.
But you bring that happiness. Maybe you bring love. Maybe you bring
peace.
What you do for the others. Maybe you bring that vibration of having overcome your family toxicity and trying to bring something which is better. Choose something that is more around value principles. And I tell you, I have a comfortable life, and I wouldn't like to have a miserable life. I wouldn't like to be poor. I wouldn't like to have. I had my very bad days. I wouldn't like that anymore. But I wouldn't like today to have another car for the wrong reasons. Or, you know, that people sometimes ask me, I never fly first class first. Even if the ticket is paid for me, I separate it in 2 business class. For one reason. When you fly first class, next time you fly business class, it's a downgrade. So my brain is economy, and most of the time people pay me business class. And then I'm happy. But if you change your mindset, you're always downgrading yourself. And that's the worst for the rich people. It's just suddenly there's something you don't have.
And it's like, it's a constant. Then becomes a constant race.
It doesn't stop. We talked about the size of the plane, but it's really like this. For some of the people I know, it's really, my plane now is too small.
You know, in the conclusion, what I wanted to share as an insight to whoever is going to watch, and because I will ask you, this is the result of the work you had with Sonia and your wife, and I'm happy that we met. So this is the result. But I'm sure that the process...
Oh, yes. Let's do a podcast on the process.
Of course, because...
I have a lot to say, and we can even... The book is not important. It's not about the book. It's about what's in the book.
Exactly, because what I'm doing... I got an offer, as you said, as a Zen said, that when the student is ready, master comes, right? So I wanted to write a book for so many years, and I didn't know what to write about, even though I had a really interesting life with all the ups and downs. And then I think when I was ready, I received a message from a guy on Instagram. He said, why don't you write a book? And I said, okay. And it's the person I never met physically, only online. And I start recording he said, just start sending me voice messages with different stories, and I'll put it in a book. So I did. And you know what I've realized? And I actually told him, and I said, I want this to be an opening of the book, because I said, I've realized that writing this book is much more important than the result. I don't want to see the book yet, because the result was that, you know, the stories I told him was a complete different from how I believed in them. So I made myself believe in those stories. I presented myself to me as a hero in those situations, believed in them for so many years, like, oh, this guy cheated me, or this guy did this, or in this situation, it wasn't completely my fault. While only recording those stories, I actually told him the truth. I said, this is truly who I was. I mean, I have no shame that I was like that. I can't blame
The shame is very important.
Yeah.
I wish that the listeners, if there's one thing they need to remove, is the shame and the guilt. The shame of being wrong, it's terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Eating
we are
you.
wrote
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah,
And Sonia wrote a wonderful sentence in the book that comes from a text called A Course in Miracle, written in the 70s. Do you choose to be right or do you choose to be happy?
Oh.
My answer is immediate.
Yeah.
Being right for what?
Yeah.
Let's hug each other.
Yeah.
And then let's have a drink.
Yeah.
And let's be happy and let's laugh. And
Always.
let's look at the sunset and let's create something of value. Why do we want to be right in arguments?
Yeah.
When you realize that it's your ego, like you said, your ego was very strong. Your ego wants to be right because he believes in power and domination. And I would really gladly organize a few other talks about really the process and some subjects, or how to open it from the inside and how to break the shell.
Couple of words how we finish this part 1. For sure the part 2 is coming.
No, part 17.
Yeah.
I need to fail a little more.
So first of all, as Steve rightly said at the beginning, you will see this episode before our event on 30th of this month, September.
No, the event
October.
is 28th, 29th, and 30th of September.
29th, and 30th.
It's a leadership, negotiation, and conflict resolution masterclass with official certification from the Maverick Business Academy, done in partnership with Enlightened Minds, your company. And it's really 2 aspects. It's academic, with Paul Fisher, the head of the program on negotiation, leadership and negotiation at Oxford. And then the experience, we give a lot of classes together, so we know how to interact. And it's really for people to have a triggering experience into something a little bit different than just learning the tools. And I give you one example. Before, I used to teach negotiation to people. Yeah. So when I had a student who was a liar, manipulator, and toxic, he would get tools to be a better negotiator, right? What would he become? A better liar, manipulator, and toxic. And we don't want that anymore. I don't want that anymore. Yeah. Be whoever you want. Yeah. But if we can teach you to be a better human being in negotiation, leadership, and better with the employees and better with you, that's wonderful. That's consciousness of humanity. And that's the W3, win, win, win. The third win being the world. Yeah. We need today to protect the world as a unity and all of its inhabitants. And humans are definitely inhabitants.
Wonderful. So I will leave under this video all the details and links to join the training seminar, which is again on 28, 29, the 30th of September.
Of October.
Of October.
We can do one in September if you want.
28, 29, 30th October, 10. This next month.
Next month.
Yeah.
No,
so
next month.
Next month.
It's still August today.
Oh, yes.
We're 28th of August, so it's in 2 months. I'm not going to speak for 2 months now.
So we're definitely going to do something before that. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank
Steve.
you all. If you really listen to all of this, it's really you're patient and courageous. We love you very much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Timo.
We are done. Thank you.